Hi there, everybody. This is David, and it is time for the Best of 2024 RPG Awards. We have had just a landslide year of just fantastic games coming out, and it was extraordinarily difficult for me to go ahead and choose what would be the best of the best. What games would reign supreme? What games actually deserve to be in this award show? We don't have one game to top them all. We have a ton of games that are all topping each other. Oh wow, that sounded really bad. But we're going to be going through all these games today and talking about which are the best of the best. And I do think that that is worth a sub, as I do try my hardest to hit 100,000 subscribers. With your help, your like, and your sub, I just know that I can get there. So now let me start going over the best of the best games that came out this year that you really do need to play because they won some awards. Starting out with our number one, the best turn-based RPG, and that award goes to Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth. I don't know about y'all, but I feel like we've almost got a new IP with the Yakuza series. I mean, it's been around forever, since the PS2 era even, but it was never really my thing. Ichiban and his love for Dragon Quest, though, did change all that. All of his entries are turn-based, and I just can't get enough of him and his wacky little crew. You'll start off in Japan, but quickly make your way over to Hawaii, where the hijinks ensue. The turn-based battles are fast and fun, but what puts it over the top for me is the job class system. And it's not like you can just choose all your classes right from the get-go or anything. You discover them as you go along, completing the story as well as completing side quests. And Ichiban's imagination takes over and boom, a brand new job class is born. Battling takes positioning into account as your various skills and attacks can hit in a straight line, circles, or even an arc in front of you. And if there happens to be any sort of objects that you can pick up and smash the enemy's face in with it, hey, have at it, it is there for you to use. You can even ping pong the enemies back and forth off of one another. This is turn-based, but with the volume turned up. And now, with turn-based out of the way, let's look over at its evil twin, the best action RPG of the year, and that award goes to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Absolutely breathtaking. There are no other words that could be used to describe this game. You could literally play it for hundreds of hours and still not see everything that it has to offer. There was just so much jam-packed into this world. It is amazing what they were able to accomplish here. And while I do personally wish that they did keep it turn-based, I can't knock the combat system that they did implement because it is just spectacular. Every single character has their own completely unique playstyle. They're not just carbon copies of one another. Synergy attacks have been implemented, allowing your characters to combine up with one another and really bring party composition over to the forefront. Then there's the revolutionary materia system, which allows you to customize your characters over to your heart's content through magical spells and buffs, not to mention the skill trees that even further customize your characters. And well, yeah, you could just get through the entire game just by going from story beat to story beat. There's no fun in that. The real joy of this game is getting off the beaten path and going to those beautiful vistas and just seeing what's out there, seeing what you can find, discovering that new materia or that new summon or that great weapon, and stumbling across a unique side quest. I personally love the joy of discovery, and games like this just have that in spades. So, now that we've covered turn-based and action, of course, next up is the best strategy RPG of the year, and that award goes to Unicorn Overlord. This is another Vanillaware banger, and it seems like this company just does not miss. They always do everything right. They know what gamers want, and they deliver it without fail. I've always been a huge fan of turn-based strategy RPGs, the ones like Final Fantasy Tactics. This one, though, is a real-time strategy RPG, in the same vein as something like Ogre Battle 64 or the Growlancer series, and those games have never been as popular as their turn-based cousins, though. But Unicorn Overlord plays second fiddle to no one. With an absolutely riveting story filled to the brim with great characters and beautiful locations, this one is going to stick with you for quite a bit of time. Then there's the battling, which is actually won or lost in the menu. You see, you don't actually have control over your units during the battles. You instead have to synergize them together in the menu and put the proper units together with one another. And then you just set up what they do via a gambit system like in Final Fantasy XII. It is ingenious, and it makes the fighting lightning quick, so you can instead focus on the biggest picture, like an omnipotent god. And speaking of something kind of godly, let's look at this year's best indie RPG of the year, and that is our little gem, beloved Rapture. I've been looking forward to this game for quite a bit of time. I mean, it feels like this is like an indie RPG that was made just for me. Taking tons of inspiration from Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, and Lufia 2, it has puzzles galore, fast, turn-based battles, massive open regions, on-screen encounters with enemies that don't respawn all the time, tons of little caves and tunnels and inlets taking you over to secret areas and treasure chests, or just kind of like bridging regions together. The whole game just feels so alive and intact. I am an old school gamer at heart. I was a teenager when the SNES came out, and it really did mold me into the gamer that I am today, so I definitely love this aesthetic. But what I actually love more are the characters and the storyline, because while everything else is fantastic, the storyline really speaks to me. Because this isn't just like your typical teenage boy meets girl coming of age story, instead it's a boy meets boy coming of age story, combined with tongue-in-cheek humor, vicious villains, devastating moments, and heartfelt true love. Now, let's talk about the game that I'm sure a lot of you thought would be the best indie RPG, and that's the winner of the Best Spiritual Successor, which of course belongs to Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. What is a spiritual successor, you ask me? Well, for the most part, these games take a defunct series, such as Suikoden, and then they make the game extraordinarily inspired by it, so much so that it could almost be considered like a sequel. And that, in a nutshell, is what a spiritual successor is. I'm a massively huge fan of the Suikoden series. I remember that it was one of the first RPGs that I played back on the original PlayStation. I'd gotten it for Christmas in '97 because, Final Fantasy VII came out, so with this new system under my belt, I made the long drive over to Town Center Mall in Kennesaw, hopped on over to the Electronics Boutique, and I found it, along with Wild Arms and Beyond the Beyond, in the bargain bin for $5 a piece. So of course, I picked them all up, and I immediately fell in love with all three. Yeah, you heard me right, I even loved Beyond the Beyond. But we haven't seen hide nor hair of the Suikoden series since the PS2, so the original developers took it upon themselves to solve that problem by creating Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, which features a glorious world map, enchanting music, fun, fast turn-based battles with 6-person party, combination attacks, blacksmithing, and a boatload of characters that you can recruit for battling, as well as town building. The game really has it all, just like a typical Suikoden game, and I felt like I was playing like a Suikoden 6 back on the PS2. It was kind of like uncanny, and I do hope that it does spawn its own series because, God forbid Konami make their own Suikoden 6. But now, rather than a spiritual successor of a great series, let's talk about a remake of a great series. We've had a lot of remakes lately, but the best of the best and our winner for Best Remake of the Year, of course, goes to the Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. I'm going to take you back to the past, back to play a really great game that does not suck ass. Hell yeah, it's Dragon Quest III, which I originally got for the NES when I was in 4th grade. And to say that I played like the bejesus out of it is an understatement. I could not get enough of this game. I still remember having my NES hooked up and just kind of like grinding on Dragon Quest III while I wrote essays in high school. I played it forever and I loved it, but this remake takes everything that I loved about the original and just puts it on steroids with added bosses, flashbacks, stories, secrets, monster capturing, and a brand new job class. This here is everything that I ever wanted from this game. I was really pleasantly surprised whenever I saw that not only did the physical classes gain MP and abilities, but the magical classes all had their spells kind of like reshuffled to make them better balanced. And now, even some prior borderline useless classes have their new uses. I was constantly going off the beaten track, looking for the next secret area or the next sparkly, trying out new things and going new places to see what was there, and then being completely caught off guard by all the new, extraordinarily difficult boss fights that they added in. It was just great. But wait, we're not done yet, because I do have a special giveaway for you all. Thanks to Square Enix, I have 2 PC codes for Dragon Quest III HD Remastered that I'm going to be giving away to a commenter who tells me why they are most deserving of this game. So be sure to leave a heartfelt comment, and you might just be one of the 2 winners. Just make sure that you are subscribed as well, because you have to be in order to win, and may the odds be ever in your favor. And just as the HD 2D remakes revitalize the Dragon Quest series, our next award goes to the Best Series Revival, and that goes to Visions of Mana. I absolutely adore the Mana series. It is one of my favorites, and it is Square Enix's flagship action RPG series after all. no matter how much they want to make Final Fantasy an action RPG. I've been playing the series ever since Final Fantasy Adventure back on the Game Boy, but somewhere around the PS2 era, they did the series dirty by branching it off into multiple genres where it kind of like lost its identity and it slowly died. Visions of Mana, though, is a return to form, and it single-handedly revived the series. With multiple characters to choose from, each with their own unique fighting styles, the elemental spirits who not only allowed you to traverse and explore the world in unique ways, but also allowed you to change classes into a ton of different variety of jobs, massive open worlds to explore that's just absolutely gorgeous, and voice acting that does not sound like nails on a chalkboard. This here is the real deal. Square Enix has been going back to the basics lately, and they've been learning that the basics are what we want in the gaming landscape. It hasn't changed all that much, because we still want what works, and Visions of Mana definitely works. So now, I want to talk about the biggest surprise of the year, and something else that definitely worked, and that was Romancing Saga 2: Revenge of the Seven. Not only was this a remake, but it was a damn good one, and it just knocked my socks off. I was really surprised with just how spectacular it was. Whereas you can still see the original bones of the game in the Dragon Quest III remake, Romancing Saga 2: Revenge of the Seven pretty much like threw away 90% of the original game, and it only kept the storyline, locations, and characters, while it reimagined just about everything else. It was created from the ground up by the same team who created the absolutely fantastic Trials of Mana remake, and it shows. Saga does have a reputation for being a bit unwieldy, a bit obtuse, and very hard to get into. But no longer, because nothing is a mystery here anymore. This tells you where to go, what to do, who to talk to, and how to move the storyline along. And it also explicitly shows you how to glimmer new techniques with the new TP system. You're explicitly shown how your actions and battles affect your character growth. All the guesswork is taken out of it. You're no longer like wandering around in the dark and praying that what you're doing is working. Now you're explicitly shown all the rewards for your hard work. And it took a rather obscure game and it really elevated it to the forefront and made it one of the best games of the entire year. So now, I want to segue into something a little bit fun, and that's my next award, the worst RPG of the year, which goes to The Legend of Heroes: Trails of Cold Steel, The Northern War. I really don't know what's worse, the trash anime series or this trash cash grab mobile game. They're kind of both bad as far as I'm concerned. It's like, why does every single animated series need an associated game with it, no matter how terrible the anime was? And it always seems to come out with just an equally bad game. It really does boggle the mind. The first thing that you're going to see when you beat up the game are scenes ripped straight out of the anime show, and without subtitles, which means that unless you're fluent in Japanese, you have no idea what in the world is going on. Then you're introduced to your characters, who like sway about in the wind like they're little marionettes on a string or something. It all just looks so weird, like they're undead zombies. And speaking of having no idea what's going on, the script was obviously just kind of like run through some AI translator, so half of it doesn't make any sense, it's not grammatically correct, and spelling errors abound. Then there's the battling, if you can even call it that, because it's just an idle RPG. You don't have any direct control over what your characters do. You just kind of like hope and pray that their levels are enough to get by. Personally though, I would just kind of like hope and pray for an entirely different game, a better game, a good game, kind of like our #1 best RPG of the year, Metaphor ReFantazio. Talk about a hard decision. I spent literally weeks waffling back and forth over which game should win the coveted title of Game of the Year. Should it be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? What about Dragon Quest III? Instead of making Metaphor the best RPG of the year, should I just make it like the best turn-based RPG of the year? It took me forever to really nail down where each game should go, but I am confident in my decisions now, and I do think that Metaphor ReFantazio deserves the Game of the Year award, and let me tell you why. First of all, it is a brand new IP, it's not a remake or a rehash of an old story. It's its own unique thing, and in a time whenever it seems we're getting like nothing but ports and remakes, I mean, look at the releases coming out next year for God's sakes. It's pretty much nothing but ports of old games. So we need to do our best to support fresh, new ideas. And the storyline has never been done before. The world itself is absolutely fantastical. The press turn combat system is glorious. And I love the mixture between the turn-based and the action combat. Not only that, but the whole archetype job system is just chef's kiss. I actually really enjoy how they're tied to the bonding events, because it does give you like a great reward system for doing those instead of making them drudgery like they feel like in the Persona series. Everything about it was just so meticulously crafted, from the beautiful world, to the depths of the characters, to the balancing of the job system. So here's hoping that we do get a Metaphor 2 in the coming years, because if any game deserves a sequel, it is this one. So that is it for my Best Games of 2024 Annual Awards show. And I did want to take the time to thank each and every one of you for supporting my channel throughout the years. I don't say it enough, but I really do greatly appreciate everything that you all do for me and all of your support. I wouldn't be anywhere without you all, so thank you again. And now, I do want to hear from you. Do you agree with my awards? Do you disagree? Where would you place these games? Would you add any more games to it? Would you take any more games away? Let's all talk and chat about it. And as always, have a good day.